Hello. I know, right? It's like a completely new space, but I'm still trying to figure out, you know, the space. I didn't want to use that word twice. And also, no, it's not intentional that I'm wearing blue just because I'm going to be speaking on the male reproductive system. It's not. But let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sexual and Reproductive Health Education on Casa Talk. So, today, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be focusing on the male reproductive system, right? On the male anatomy. So, there are two parts, just like the female reproductive system. There's the external, and then there's the internal, not eternal, but internal. Anyway, so we're going to begin with the external, what we actually see outside. And what we see with the male reproductive system, the male anatomy, is the penis as well as the scrotum. Now, the scrotum, a lot of people call it the balls or the testicles, but it's actually not the testicles. The testicles are actually inside. So the scrotum is the sac that actually holds the testis, okay? So that's what's like hanging underneath the penis. And then now you come to the penis, okay? Now, the penis has three parts. You have the glans, which is the head, some may call it. Then you have the shaft, which is the middle part, and then the base. The base is the part that, attached, or rather, connects to the male pelvis, okay? Now, when it comes to the head, that's actually the most sensitive part. Sort of like the clitoris, it has thousands of nerves in there, okay? Now, on the head, or rather on the edge of the glans, penis, you have a round part, like the round edge. It's actually called the corona. I know. The first time I heard the word corona, I was like, what's the word corona doing on a penis, right? But corona actually is Latin and it means crown. So the extra info. So from there you have the shaft of the penis, which is, the long part. Now, the use of the penis on the male is for sexual intercourse during arousal. Actually, no, not during arousal, but for sexual intercourse, performing sexual activities, right? So it gets erect when a man is aroused, okay? And as I mentioned earlier, the point of the scrotum is actually to hold the testicles. Also, the penis is actually used for excretion of urine, for urinating, simple English. Now that we're done with the external part, let's move to the internal part. Now, in the internal part, I'm going to begin from the testis, which is actually in the scrotum, right? Basically, what I'm going to do is describe the journey, same way as I did with the female reproductive system, if you remember. The testis, as I mentioned earlier, is inside the scrotum. And the purpose and the function of the testis is to produce hormones like testosterone, okay? As well as the production of sperm. So now, once sperm is produced, it actually now is moved into the epididymis, the head of the epididymis. Now, the epididymis is sort of like a tube, a long tube, but it's sort of like coiled around, right? Now, when the sperm is in the epididymis, it actually moves along the epididymis from the head all the way to the tail. Now, that averages about 12 days. Now, the length of time allows the sperm to mature. So from the head of the epididymis to the tail of the epididymis, it takes about average of 12 days, okay? Now, when the sperm reaches maturity, it is stored in the tail of the epididymis, right? Ready for ejaculation. Now, when ejaculation is going to happen, the sperm moves from the tail of the epididymis and travels in the vas deferens. The vas deferens is also sort of like, it's also a tube, not sort of, it is also a tube, sort of like the fallopian tube. If you look, there are actually similarities, isn't it, between the female reproductive system and the male reproductive system. Now, as it moves through the, the vas deferens, right? At the end of the vas deferens, we have accessory glands. Okay? Now, let me just sort of break this down. There are three accessory glands, right? Which is where semen, which is the fluid that sperms are in. Okay, semen is the fluid that sperms are in. Okay, that they float in. So, I just used the word float, but okay. So, the first accessory gland that is at the end of the vas deferens is the seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle actually produces a liquid, right, that has fructose in it. So this fructose actually gives sperm the energy to swim towards the ovum for fertilization. Okay? And then from there, it goes, this liquid with the sperm inside now goes into the prostate gland, right? The prostate gland now, what it does is it also produces another fluid. Now this fluid, basically, it thickens, right? This fluid thickens up and then becomes more liquidy. But it thickens up first, right? In order to allow the sperm to like have enough time, right, to utilize the fructose. This is when it's inside the vagina. Okay? Then from there, the next fluid that is created, that is added to create the semen, is a fluid that is created in the bulbourethral gland, which is the last gland. Now, basically, the purpose of this fluid is to clean out the urethra of urine, right, as well as to lubricate the penis. So, those are the three glands, right, that create the semen, the fluid part of the semen. Okay? So, shall we summarize? You have the external male reproductive system, which is the glans penis, which is the top, the head part, the shaft, which is the long part, and then you have the base, which attaches to the abdomen. And then you have the scrotum, not the balls again, or rather the balls as they call it, but rather not the testes. You have the scrotum. And then now you have the internal reproductive system. The internal reproductive system consists firstly of the testes, which is inside the scrotum, and then from the testes you have the epididymis, right? From the epididymis you have the vas deferens, and then from the vas deferens you have the three accessory glands, which is first the seminal vesicle, second the prostate gland, and third the bulbourethral gland. And then from there you have the urethra, which is where the semen comes out of during ejaculation. Hope I didn't leave anything out. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye.